Sports.
Czar from KWTX, Royden and Ogletree, joining us. An official, I mean, always been a member of the KWTX sports team, but now you're the guy to go to.
Oh yeah, I guess, and Darby Brown was the sports czar forever, and she had bigger and better things planned in Austin, Texas. So I decided, or they decided rather, to let me step in and do some things there.
I was telling you, you look like the cowboy. You look like you're fresh off Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
You got that steel jaw. Check him out, Scotty. He's got the beard going. So this has been and we just came upon this. So pre-pandemic,
yeah,
you were. Go ahead.
I was heavy, man. Pre-pandemic, I probably looked sickly. I was like 180 pounds probably. And then pandemic, just like everybody else, it's just you're sitting in your house and like, oh, I guess I'll drink at noon on a Tuesday. I'm off or whatever. And so I had to cut half of that out.
And when did you get married?
I got married 2021, October 23rd, 2021.
And so your wife said, hey, maybe we can.
Yeah, maybe we can, I think I was the heaviest I'd ever been when we got married.
Yeah.
Which everybody tells you, it's like, you want to look good in your photos. I've heard some people are like, hey, just look the heaviest you've ever been in your wedding photos. That way, when people see you, because they're all plastered over your house, they come in, they're like, oh, you look great.
So you were the heaviest you'd ever been for your wedding photos?
Little bit. I think maybe a little bit after that. And then she was like, let's rein this in a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did. And I was running and stuff. And really when I, started taking over the sports shop, I was like, I got to fit in suits again.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy new suits. And so, yeah, I figured out how to do that and fit back into some of the suits that I had pre-pandemic.
I love it. Well, we you and I have been able to fortunately work together throughout the football season,
right,
doing Inside the 12, which you have been a stellar producer on that. We just did our last show. Football wise, we're going to start to. Are you going to still do basketball with us?
I'm going to be there for a little bit. I believe Nate may take over when I start actually getting more integrated into the sports role there with Chad. But just because a little inside baseball, we filmed that thing at like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. I go to bed at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know you're kind of a night owl too, but like
I've turned into one.
Yeah, you're up and at 'em. But so. That may happen, but I'm going to be there to see it through, to get us rolling in the right direction, I think, as well.
So, all right, let's talk about Baylor, because they're definitely rolling in the right direction. I want to talk football first. I can say this: you were on Sawyer Robertson when he got to school prior to this season, last year, when he transferred over to Mississippi State. I remember asking you about him, and you spoke glowingly about this kid. I guess you'd known him, right, as that 4-star recruit out of Lubbock.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how like in Baylor was on him. I think when you go back and you look at his 365, or not his 365 profile, his 247 profile, all these numbers, all these stations around here, you go look at his 247 profile. I believe Baylor may have offered him out of high school. Texas Tech was in there. And I think he just wanted to follow Mike Leach to Mississippi State. Of course, Leach's passing, rest in peace. I think that may have had, I don't know how much, but I think that may have had something to do with
it did. He told us.
Yeah, not sticking around at Mississippi State. But he wanted to play in that wide open West Texas offense, I think. And then he came to Baylor maybe to like boost his profile more in the more pro style offense under that Jeff Grimes wide zone system.
Yeah.
Well, it changed under Spavital, who reverted back to that, Bryles-esque, Leach-esque spread him out system. And he's thrived since then. And I think that was always going to be how he was going to do, because he just reverted back to stuff that he was doing in high school and doing it at a high level too. So
were you getting antsy when like it wasn't quite obvious? I mean, it wasn't obvious at all. He was not the starter,
right, going
into the season. Did you kind of feel like that? I mean, hindsight's 2020, but I just give you credit for being in on the guy, way before he even started playing.
Yeah, when I was in on Finn too, because I thought he provided an element of the rushing attack, and you saw it earlier in the season, how quick and fast he was when he decided he wanted to take off. He could get to the end zone in a flash, and I thought that would provide something to a Baylor team who I didn't think their offensive line would be this good. They improved, made some changes and improved down the season, and I thought that he would provide some escapability in the pocket to be able to provide an extra spark that I don't think Baylor had quite frankly under Blake Shapen, and the last time they had was I think Gary Bohannon. But I think what ended up happening is that they needed somebody who wasn't going to turn the ball over as much as Finn looked like he was going to turn the ball over earlier in the season. Yeah. He was throwing interceptions to, lesser opponents earlier in the season. And it's not his fault. He got hurt. And so,
but they gave him every opportunity.
They gave him all the opportunity that I think they could. And then he stepped, and then Sawyer Robertson stepped in, and it just looked more natural. And in fact, Sawyer Robertson had some stats that like RG3 quarterbacks hadn't had since RG3, where he was like rushing for 100 yards and throwing for 300 yards or something like that, and rushing for a touchdown. Now, I don't think he's nowhere near as quick and fast as DeQuan Finn is, but he provided enough in that game and sort of the quarterback power and stuff that they needed to keep defenses honest, and his escapability in the pocket improved. But I think his ability to really hit throws quick and hit throws in a timely manner, and sort of those in-breaking routes that we've seen Josh Cameron do really well, or get throws out to the sideline to some of those slot receivers. And then recently the deep ball has been really good too. But so I think he just fit better in this offense, mostly because he's been running it in his sleep for 8 years now. So I really like what I've seen from Sawyer Robertson, and he kind of proved me wrong, because I was like, well, look, he could have, just like anyone now, I'm not the starter, I'm going to transfer again.
Yeah.
And he decided, and look, they made the decision late in the process of who they were going to start, but he decided to stick around. It seems like he likes Baylor, and there's been a lot of consternation on Twitter, as there always is, about, oh man, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money.
So that's, you're taking me to my next point question. Grab your crystal ball.
Right.
What do you foresee happening in this situation? Because this is the one opportunity. It was funny. I was watching, I do all this silly stuff. I was watching the All Madden documentary about John Madden.
Right.
And he talked about when he was offered a full-time analyst role with, maybe it was NBC to start, like part-time, or CBS full-time, but he was like, I'm not sure. And then he told himself, I got to take this because I don't know if I'm ever going to get it again.
Yeah.
Like with Sawyer Robertson, it's the same thing. Like if somebody comes to the table with $4 million, like he may never get offered that money for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he may not get that if he goes to the pros. I mean, it just depends on where you're drafted, obviously, and some people would have him high, and some people would have him mid-round. Right now, I don't think there's been a lot of draft grades on him, because nobody expected him to be as good as he ended up being this year. I think he's like 5th in total QBR this season.
Yeah,
but I think he likes being here, especially if you stay to be the backup as a junior. And then there's that video on Baylor, and this is all speculation.
I love it. Bring it on.
There's a video on Baylor Twitter where he gives all of his team all the Yeti gear that's Baylor branded and all that stuff. And I think his team loves him, and I think he loves Jake Spavital, and I think they get along pretty well. And if Spavital stays another year, he probably knows in his heart of hearts that, like, hey, I can have a really good season here, especially with all the weapons that they have coming back. And so I don't know if he's going to have it better anywhere else. Now, if like Ohio State or something is like, we'll pay you $5 million to come here, I don't know. I as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old would probably have to have been like, talk to my parents about that. But I think there'll be somebody that comes in and pays them good money to stay here.
Personally, I would stay at Baylor. It's, the system, the surroundings. As long as Jake Spavital stays, I would stay 100%.
I think
but he could leave. Spav could leave.
Spav could leave. I think he could probably get, he could get another high-paying OC job. I think there's a little bit. I think they paid him pretty well to come here from Cal, I believe is where he was. Yeah. And I think he likes being in Texas. As Shahan was talking to us about this yesterday, but I think he likes being in Texas. I think he has roots here. He's from Oklahoma, but like, I think that you stay one more year in this system, and you have the sort of the year that you had this year. This goes for both Sawyer and Spavital. If you have sort of the year that you have, like the end of this year, then the sky's sort of the limit as far as where you can go, and Spav could get an actual head coaching job out of this, I believe, because somebody always wants, he's young, somebody always wants the young coordinator to come and run their team. So I think if that happens and they have a great year next year, then the sky's the limit for both these guys, especially where like Sawyer could see draft looks that he wasn't seeing previously, and so on and so forth. But, you know, I think
Shahan mentioned to us yesterday, we're talking about Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports. He mentioned that somebody could want to take Spav and Sawyer together.
Now that would be a windfall for Baylor fan. People would be so frustrated with that. But, you know, crazier things I think have happened in this day and age.
What do you talk to me about timeline? You know, you're pretty good with this stuff. And honestly, I don't know. Scotty, if you know, feel free to jump in. What is the timeline like? Like, how quickly could they get a new NIL deal done with Sawyer? So it's almost like you come in and say, well, he's under contract.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if even the NFL.
Scotty, do you know? Scotty doesn't know.
And I don't even know. Scotty doesn't know.
Never heard that one before.
Right.
That's a tough question.
I
don't know, but I don't know anything.
I think any and all things are welcome now in this world of NIL. Yeah. I think people are could genuinely, like, you could have one of these billionaire lawyers or the, you know, CEO of Oracle or whoever that is in the Baylor bubble that could be like, hey, I want to donate to this NIL fund, or some, you know, Yeti or whoever could come and sponsor Sawyer, and, you know, he could be well set. So I don't know. I think it's pretty immediate if anybody wants. And it's also immediate. There is a transfer window, and you're seeing a lot of news today that people are transferring out of schools. So I think it's pretty immediate what you can and can't do in this day and age.
All right,
as far as transferring in NIL. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm stepping on you. I'm jumping all over. I don't want to lose this thought. Micah Hudson from Lake Belton leaves Texas Tech.
Right.
Any insight there or knowledge as to why he left and where he's going?
I don't know him personally. I covered him in high school, and we covered you and I called some games where he played last year at Lake Belton, and he was all world, obviously, coming out of there. He's one of the best rated prospects that's ever come out of the Central Texas area. And, you know, Texas Tech paid him like so to get him to, you know, not go to Texas and to go to Texas Tech. And there was a lot of, again, I'll use this word, like hand-wringing or consternation or whatever in Lubbock about, why aren't we playing this guy? And he only got, I think, like 20 catches, or maybe even like 20 targets.
There was an effort to get him involved early on in the season, and it's kind of happened. Like, I think he scored a touchdown, and he had a couple like big catches in a decent, like, in a somewhat meaningful game, but then he disappeared.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in this transfer era where people, it's tough because sometimes even if you're a five-star prospect, players aren't ready to play physically, or, they may not have the playbook, because in high school it's like get it to the guy.
Yeah.
But in college it's not that, and you have to learn route trees and do all this stuff that maybe they weren't doing. I don't know this for a fact, but maybe they weren't doing previously. So he kind of disappeared down their depth chart, and they have a really good passing attack regardless, with Barrett Morton and the guys out there. But I don't know. I think even Texas Tech fans online were like, we got to get this guy involved and lo and behold, he transfers. So I think they were probably hoping that maybe he'll come in, he'll learn just like a lot of guys have to learn. And it just turns out like he didn't want to do that. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on with the transfer portal and stuff where guys are like, the grass is going to be greener on the other side. And I don't know if that's going to be the case with him or not, but I would like to see we get back to a place in NCAA football where guys stay, learn the system. And you take a guy like, just going back to Baylor, you take a guy like Josh Cameron, who was a walk-on, who had rarely played. He had gotten in here and there, and now he's a redshirt junior, and he has, 12 touchdowns on the year or something like that.
Coming into the season as somebody who will prepare to call their games early on, he was a kick returner.
Right.
But every year, it's even happened last year, before the Texas State game, their opener, where like he was on the depth chart as like number 2 or number 3 receiver, and you were kind of like, really? And honestly, like I was probably, this is why we don't know shit. I was like, wow, Baylor's like doing Baylor stuff, or being, rewarding a guy who's smart and probably behaves well. Like, no, dude is a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's why, I mean, you watch him all season long. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy he's got a bone to pick with every defense that he faces. And, you know, Scotty was in love with when he just walked in against Kansas and flexed over the.
He did the Lamar Jackson. You remember the Lamar Jackson in high school where he stopped on a dime and let the guy go past him like this? He kind of like shook that guy off and just like trotted into the end zone.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I was really, I don't know, that was a sign that like kind of Baylor saying, okay, we're here. Like we didn't just beat a Kansas team who was playing competitive football or very good football against other 3 ranked teams before us. We beat the brakes off them. Mm-hmm. What's the feel of the fan base right now going into, you know, you got a bowl game and then you got an off season?
I think, well, they had a really good recruiting class. I thought it was first in the Big 12. It turns out I think it was like they were behind a couple of Colorado and TCUs. They ended up being behind in the Big 12, but I think they were third in the Big 12 in recruiting, a top 35 recruiting class after going 3-9. So they were able to pull that out of the hat and get kids to commit to a program that they didn't know what it was going to be, quite frankly. And even after a 2-4 start, they hung on to all those recruits, and I think they flipped a couple of guys. So I think there's a lot of there was a lot of finger pointing early on in the fan base, and this is just all online stuff or from who I've talked to. There's a lot of finger pointing, and now there's a lot of, why didn't you believe in us? And it's just like, guys, we got to decide what we wanted to be. It's either we were bad and we got good, or it's the no one believed in us sort of thing. So we got to decide which one we want to be. But no, I think people are excited for the first time in a long time, because after I went to school there, but I covered the team, and we were, 12 games, went to the Sugar Bowl, won the Sugar Bowl, and we're riding high. And then all
ranked
of a sudden,
10th going into the season.
It's 6-7 the next 6-7 the next year, 3-9 the next year. And what is it that we're doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? And then you go 2-4. What's the direction of this program? And you reel off those games. And it's, I think people are excited for the first time in about 3 years to watch Baylor football. We'll see if that carries over to if enough people are going to go to the bowl game. I'm looking at you, Baylor fans, show up because it's probably going to be in Texas more than likely.
It'll be the Texas Bowl, you think, right?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be the Texas Bowl. I think there's a lot of hype around people wanting to see A&M and Baylor play, or at least from us. I don't know if the Aggie,
that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if the Aggie fan base wants to see it, but the Baylor fans definitely want to see it. So I'm interested to see what the turnout is going to be at a bowl game, if people are that excited or if people are still, all right, we went.
What is the Texas Bowl in Houston?
It is in Houston at NRG. Yeah.
That's sorry, Royden.
No, I am on record. You can go on my Twitter. I am on record of saying, like, NRG is an okay stadium.
Well, it's just hard to get Baylor fans to travel to Houston. If it was right about 35, it'd be different.
Yeah, most of them are in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin area. There's a good fan base in Houston.
All right,
as well,
Scotty,
too.
come on. So
I'll weigh in with the history here. So, and Royden can correct me if he thinks I'm wrong. So my first experience with Baylor in Houston was in 2009 when Baylor made the Elite Eight and played Duke.
That's different,
and
Scotty.
There were 40,000 Baylor fans.
Scotty, that is so different.
Hold on.
That is so different.
And the last time Baylor was in the Texas Bowl was
Uh-huh.
against Vanderbilt in 2018, I believe, Matt Rule's second year. Uh-huh. And Baylor fans traveled very well to that.
You're just a Baylor apologist.
Royden, am I wrong?
Okay,
no, I would agree that
I would imagine that would be the case.
And then they played Illinois, I believe, in the Texas Bowl in 2010,
yeah.
And that game didn't go really well. But like people will go, I think, to Houston. I think when you start getting out to like Memphis, or if enough Baylor fans showed up when they went to the Holiday Bowl, but people aren't going to go to like San Diego if it's around Christmas. I think Baylor fans and travel has been a back and forth of the fan base for a long time.
By the way, Scotty, pop yourself back up one more time. So you guys, by the way, this is like a blind date. I'm setting you two up because you have so much in common. You both love Baylor, beards, and movies.
Oh yeah.
So you tweeted something earlier today about Robert Zemeckis.
I tweeted that a week ago, and Scotty was just
Scotty liked it today.
I was going down Royden's timeline.
A couple of cinephiles.
I knew he was coming in today. Yeah.
And so what was the tweet about?
I said Robert Zemeckis had a movie that came out that no one saw.
What movie?
It was called Here.
Okay.
And it was about, just to give you the background, it was about like thousands of years in time from like one corner of one place in the Americas. And basically it just stays a stationary shot in one corner of this room.
Cool.
It's a cool concept.
It's a cool concept. It does not sound like a fun movie.
Awfully executed apparently, and just weird and like strange, which has been a lot of Robert Zemeckis'
when did it come out?
career.
Movie?
A month ago. Nobody saw it, man. It had Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. No one saw it.
So
and I had tweeted, because somebody had tweeted a shot that is just wild. You'd have to go to my Twitter and find it. I quote tweeted it, but I said, you know what's funny is that Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg used to be neck and neck early on in their careers. People were like, it's like
those were the guys.
Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, and they worked together for forever.
Give me Zemeckis' like biggest films out of the gate that aligned him with Spielberg.
I mean, it was Back to the Future. He did. Back to the Future 1 and 2. He did. Who's Framing Roger Rabbit?
Oh yeah.
He did. I mean, of course, he won the Oscar for Forrest Gump.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And he had all of these accolades. And then his late career has been him just doing weird motion capture stuff and being obsessed with like filming techniques and stuff instead of making, I don't know, frankly, good movies. And and Spielberg, meanwhile, is still getting nominated for Oscars and still making billion-dollar hit movies. And people would say, you know, that's not what film about is about experimenting stuff. But Spielberg still does that. I'm going on and on. But my point is that Spielberg and Zemeckis were like 1A and 1B for a long time, and they worked together of these like boomer elite Hollywood.
We're coming up on
directors.
the time. I got two more because I'm curious now so I'm rushing along because I want to get to this question. This is for both of you. We're going to go with the guest first, Royden. What's the best movie that just came out that we're gearing up for the holidays?
Right.
So there are some like I'm looking forward to watching The Apprentice.
Oh yeah.
I want to see that. It looks dark, but what's his face from
Sebastian Stan?
Sebastian Stan, but the guy playing Roy Cohn, the attorney from Succession,
right,
is the best casting trailer wise I've seen in a very long time. It's perfect. So that I'm excited about that. I'm also excited. I know I could rent it tonight if I wanted to. Saturday night. I want to see the Saturday Night Live movie. But what's the best movie out there, Royden, that people need to see going into the holidays? People will want to maybe go to the movies with their family over the next month or so.
Well, in fact, a lot of people did. I think like Thanksgiving box office records were broken with like Wicked and Gladiator and Moana 2. And those movies vary on how their success actually is. But I saw Gladiator. I saw Wicked yesterday.
You did?
With my wife. Yeah. And I was being a hater. I was wrong. The movie's great.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
But Wicked was fantastic, and I think you can go take your family to go see that. I haven't seen Moana. I think for like the adults, and I think it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. It's called Honora. I don't know if you can see it in Waco anymore, but like if you're in Dallas, you know,
Honora.
It's called Honora. It's a neon picture. It's from Sean Baker, who does a lot of stuff. You can find his movies, I believe, on Max. But it's a really adult film, so I don't want to so like don't like take your kids. It's rated R, so like it is. I think it's going to win Best Picture. It's along the lines of like Pretty Woman and Midnight Cowboy and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Royden.
It's one of those ones. It's the best movie that I've seen in a long time, I think, this year.
All right, Scotty again. He's like the tag team guy, like pacing outside the ring, waiting to get tagged in. Let's go. He's very patient.
So I haven't seen Wicked yet. Gladiator 2 is very good. So if that's your kind of movie, that's not a movie for everybody. But if you like the violence, you like the intense, the spectacle, Ridley Scott still got it. Here's my recommendation. I haven't seen it yet because I don't believe it's actually come out yet, but it comes out this month. You need to go see A Complete Unknown. It's Timothée Chalamet doing the biopic for Bob Dylan.
Ooh.
And I'm of the opinion that young Mr. Chalamet is our next A-list superstar.
You believe Chalamet has the juice? After Dune 2, I was like, yeah, but before Dune 2, I was like,
Dude, I thought when I saw Wonka, this kid might have it. And then Dune 2 just nailed it for me. I was like, this guy can do anything. And if he pulls off Bob Dylan, let's just be clear. If he pulls off Bob Dylan, he will get nominated and might win, Best Actor.
I agree.
I mean,
and sky's the limit.
What's the buzz, film nerds, around The Apprentice? Is there good buzz, bad buzz? What have you heard?
Well, I know from watching interviews and such, it's like there's a lot of like, again, hand wringing around like wanting to do the Donald Trump sort of biopic, but it's mostly around when he wrote The Art of the Deal. And there was a lot of studios that didn't want to put it out. Apparently it's a good movie. I think it went to Cannes, but like, you know, there was a lot of people that didn't want to even touch it.
Yeah, I would imagine
because of what was going on with the election and everything. And apparently Sebastian Stan gives a really good performance, but there's a lot of like people that didn't want to interview him over it. So it's been a weird press run
like,
for that movie.
Variety does those actor on actor conversations, and they wanted Sebastian Stan to do one to help promote the movie, and he couldn't get any of his actor friends to do it with him. He talked about that at an event.
Because I bet, is it not the worst portrayal of Donald Trump either? I don't know.
Who's to say? I mean, I'm sure it'll have one. I'm sure it'll lean hard one way, but I don't know. But I think people just were like, "This is nuclear. I don't want to touch it."
Yeah.
You know.
When does it come out?
I think it may like even just drop on streaming. I don't know if
I saw it on streaming last night, and I was like, "Oh, can I watch this now?" And so I watched the trailer.
Yeah, I don't know if. Maybe Hulu will take it or something like that, but I don't know if it's gonna. It might have already had like a really limited theater run in the coastal liberal elite cities in New York and in Los Angeles, but I don't know if it's gonna be in your local Cineplex.
All right, Royden Ogletree, we've kept you way too long. What's the movie podcast you have?
I do a podcast with two guys. It's out of Apollo HOU. Who do a bunch of Houston-centric stuff, but you can check it out, apollohou.com. But it's called One Take Podcast, which is great SEO, by the way, by us. We did it in during the pandemic when we had nothing else to do. In fact, when movies weren't even coming out,
when Royden was drinking too much.
Apparently. Yeah, exactly. So the idea was just two 26-year-olds with mics starting a podcast, but it's me and my buddy Dex Hinton, my buddy Tej. So we hop on a Zoom call every week if we go and see a movie, get zero money or zero publicity out of it, but it's fun. It's fun. You
just got your first taste of publicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Royden Ogletree, you can see him everywhere as far as Central Texas sports are concerned, and you'll be seeing him here again soon. Thanks a lot, Royden. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.